Hello, good day, Discover Church. I'm glad you guys are with us today. Man, I am so excited to be with you guys today, and I'm excited about what's coming up. We're getting closer and closer to be able to meet together in person, and I am looking forward to that immensely. So go ahead and mark your calendars. Next week, we're going to be online again, like we are this week. And then on the 17th, we're going to do another drive-in church. Everybody was talking about wanting to do another one of those, and so it'd be a great opportunity to do that. So weather permitting, we'll be doing another drive-in church on the 17th. And then after that, we'll be opening back up the building. So the week after the 17th, we'll be opening up the building, and we'll have some procedures in place, and I'll explain those a little bit more later. But man, I cannot wait. I miss you guys so much, and I'm looking forward to being with you guys on Sunday morning like we normally do. But today I'm going to take a few minutes and talk with you. I'm not going to keep you long this morning, but I just want to talk to you just a couple of minutes about taking things one day at a time. It's very important that we take things one day at a time. And right now we're in a season where everybody's trying to predict the future. They want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, in 2 weeks, in a month, in a year, where we're going to be. Everybody's trying to predict things. And man, I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at predicting the future. I'm just not good at it. Since the kiddos are here and you guys are sitting around as a family, hopefully watching, I want to do something with a deck of cards here real quick, just to kick things off and kind of tie into what we're talking about. So I'm going to give these cards a good shuffle. All right, I'm going to give them a good shuffle. There we go. They've all been shuffled up. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold this card up. Now don't tell me what it is. Don't show it to me. I'm going to guess your card. All right, I think this card is the 7 of diamonds. Am I right? I'm right. I can do this all day. Let me see. The 10 of clubs, the 10 of spades, the jack of spades, the 4 of spades. You probably realize that I've got a monitor right there, and this isn't much of a magic trick. I'm not even really any good at magic, but I'm guessing that you're not great at it either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rest of these cards here, and what I want you to do is I want you to do what I was doing. What is this card? Can you guess this card? Do you know what it is? Everybody guess. Come on, play along. Guess out loud. What do you think this card is? All right, what if I told you it's the 4 of diamonds? This card's the 4 of diamonds. How many of you guessed it? Anybody get it right? I'm going to guess that the majority of you did not get it right. Most people probably didn't guess the 4 of diamonds. But if you did, good job. But let me just say this. You got lucky. Because I'm going to say, if I take this card and hold it up, now tell me what this one is. Guess what this card is? It's a little harder, huh? Did you guess it out loud? It's 8 of clubs. How many of you got it right? Anybody? Anybody get it right? It's hard to do. And if I kept going through the deck, it would get harder and harder for you to name what's coming next. You just don't know. You're not going to score perfect, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to miss it. Actually, what would that be? 51 times out of 52, you're going to miss it because you've only got one shot to get it right. There's only one of each card in this deck, and it's hard to predict what's going to come next. And our lives are much the same way. You might have guessed right. There very well could have been somebody at home that just guessed right. But how confident were you in your guess? You knew in your mind it was just a guess. You had no reason to believe what that card was going to be. There was no, you weren't playing the odds. There was nothing in your mind to tell you what that next card was going to be. It was solely a guess. And so you may have got it right, but you weren't even fully confident going into it. You just lucked into it. And our lives are much the same way in that we don't know what tomorrow will bring. None of us know what tomorrow is going to look like. We can't. There's no way for us to know what tomorrow will bring. There's no real way of knowing. You may guess it. You may be right in your guess. But when it comes down to it, you could just as easily be wrong about what tomorrow holds. You see, none of us really know what's coming tomorrow. As hard as we try and as much as we want to, we can't be sure of what tomorrow holds. It's different for each and every one of us, and each day brings on a new challenge, new joys, new sorrows. Everything becomes new each and every day. And so in times like this, when people are really trying to predict what's going to happen next, we have to take a step back and realize that we just don't know. We just do not know and cannot know exactly what's going to take place. Now, the Israelites in the book of Exodus kind of fell into this as well. You see, the Israelites had just gotten out of Egypt. They'd crossed the Red Sea. They'd seen the Egyptian army destroyed, and they were heading out to make their own way and to in their minds to build up a new society, to do everything that God had called them to do. And they found themselves in the wilderness. They found themselves in a time of not knowing exactly where they were, not knowing exactly where they were going. They kind of had a plan. They had ideas of where they wanted to be, but there just was, they didn't know for sure what was going to happen. And it got to the point that about a month in, people began to complain. They started getting hungry. They started running out of things, and they were getting hungry, and they began to grumble and complain. And they were only a month in. They were only a month into their freedom, and already they were beginning to complain. And they would say things like, in Egypt, we had pots full of meat to eat. We could eat whatever we wanted, and we had all the bread we wanted to eat. Now, does that sound familiar? A lot of times we get into a situation, we get into our own wilderness, and we start to remember how good things were. But much like the Egyptians, our memory of the past is a lot of times a lot better than what is a lot better in our minds than what it actually was. It was kind of like our golden days, ask any guy that played sports, how good he was in high school or how good he was in Little League. And I guarantee you he's better in his mind than he was actually playing, because we have a tendency to fondly remember those times. And even in the midst of their slavery, even in the midst of the worst of times, these Israelites were looking back and saying, well, we had it much better then. And so they began to, they're so scared of what's coming next that they begin to fondly remember being in slavery. That's crazy. But we do that all the time. They said we had pots of meat to eat and all the bread we wanted in Egypt. And so God, God is a good God, isn't he? I mean, God is a really good God. What he decided to do was go ahead and feed them. There was some anger of God, and there were some things that happened, but the vast majority of them, he went ahead and fed them anyway. He fed them despite their complaining. And what he did was he sent manna from heaven. Exodus 16:4 says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. And each day," listen to this, "each day the people can go out and pick up as much food as they need for that day." Each day the people can go out and pick up the food that they need for that day. Wow, what a remarkable thing. This food began to fall from heaven. It was something they had never seen before. And when they looked at it, they exclaimed manna, which actually the word manna just means, what is that? What is that stuff that's falling from the sky? And Moses had to tell him, look, that is from heaven. That is food from heaven. That is nourishment. It will give us all the nourishment we need each and every day. So when it falls from the sky, you are to go and pick it up. You will collect it, and you collect only what you need for that day. Only what you need for that. It won't last. Whatever you pick up today will not last. It's only good for today. And so they would pick up everything that they needed for that day. It's kind of weird. You would think, this is one of those times when it's good that I'm not God, because I would have done it differently, mostly because I'm a little lazy. But I would have said, it's just as easy to drop them a month's full as it is a day's amount. So let's just give them a month's worth, and they could just tote it around instead of me having to come out here at the same time every day and drop all this manna. And so, but that's not what God did. God is a great God. And he's a good father, and he's always teaching us something. And in this moment, God was teaching the Israelites, look, I am here with you. I delivered you from Egypt. I delivered you from the armies. I delivered you from the Red Sea. And here we are again, and I'm delivering you from the hunger that you are experiencing. Each and every day, I will do what you need me to do. Each and every day, I will provide for you. Every day, I will provide what you need. Relying on God is an important thing. It's something that we lack. It's something that we need so desperately. We need to depend on Him more. The same way that God was teaching the Israelites the dependence on Him, we need to be taking that same lesson and depending on Him more and more each and every day. We have to depend on Him more, not just in bad times. We are really good about when things get rough, when things get really hard, and we have expired all of the things that we know how to do, and we have went through every possible scenario that we could do. We are very good at that point about calling on God and saying, God, I'm just depending on you. Well, you weren't. You went through everything you had yourself, and now you're depending on God. And what God is trying to teach us to do is, look, I should be your first resort, not your last. You would have a lot more energy if you would make me your first resort, not your last. It would be like the Israelites going out and when the manna fell from heaven, it would be like them going out and saying, look, I'm not all that hungry today. I ate yesterday. So I think I can get through. I think I can get through till tomorrow. And they just keep putting off what God was giving them. They would just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off until finally they were so hungry one day's worth wouldn't have been enough, but that's all that they could get. You see, we need to be sure that we're relying on God first. And when we rely on God first, when we take that manna first and take it every day, we rely on Him first thing, our days begin to go much better. And our worries about the future begin to diminish. You see, relying on Jesus will ease our minds. Relying on Him will ease our minds. John 14:27 says, I'm leaving you with a gift. Jesus was leaving us with a gift, peace of mind and heart. Man, what would you pay for peace of mind and heart in times like these? It's a commodity that you can't pay enough for. There's no amount of money that can buy you peace of mind. There's definitely no amount of money that can buy you peace of heart. You see that all the time. You see celebrities and executives and multimillionaires and billionaires. You see them all the time striving for something else because their life doesn't. There's no peace in their heart. They're not content with what they have because they can never fill the void that God has put there for us to rely on Him and Him alone. We must rely on Him. Jesus said, I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace that I give is a gift the world cannot give you. No amount of money, no amount of things can ever give you the peace that He can give you. So don't be troubled or afraid. Don't be troubled or afraid. Well, that's easy to say, not to be troubled or afraid. But what about those times when I find myself troubled or afraid? Well, what do you do? Where do you go? What do you do when you find yourself troubled and afraid? Jesus also said, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's troubles are enough for today. Today's trouble is enough for today. Well, I don't know about you, but I've got all the trouble I want for today. And I know that there's more trouble more than likely coming tomorrow. And if I can concentrate, if I can rely on that peace of heart and peace of mind, that gift that Jesus has given me, if I can rely on that, if I can go to him first, he promises me that he will help me. He promises me this peace in my mind and my heart, this gift, if I will simply not be troubled or afraid, but instead rely on him for the manna, the what is it, whatever I need, to rely on that in my life. Whatever I need from him, he is willing to supply that in my life. We need to depend on him more. Jesus also taught his disciples that when he was teaching them how to pray. If you know the Lord's Prayer, he says, give us this day our daily bread. Not give us this day a month's supply of bread. Why? Because bread goes bad. It doesn't last. It won't last you that long. If you just take bread, it's not going to last long. It's not going to be fresh. Man, there is nothing better. There is nothing better than when you go to the store and you buy bread that, or if you're lucky enough, my wife used to make homemade bread all the time, and there is nothing like there. You can't match that consistency of bread right out of the oven. You know, it's soft and it's warm and it just melts in your mouth. And if you make a sandwich on that, or you just put some butter on that and you eat it, there is nothing that duplicates that fresh bread. And I would find myself resentful when I'd eat, if I didn't eat the whole loaf that day, which a lot of times I would. But as I went on and on, or even if you buy bread from the store, the longer you have that bread, the worse it gets. But man, if you get that fresh bread every day, every time you make a sandwich, every time you want peanut butter and jelly or a good BLT or whatever it is that you're making, if you have that fresh bread every time, it's all the difference in the world. And it's the same in our lives. It's the same with that peace that God gives us. If we'll rely on that daily, if we get a fresh renewal of that daily, if we're refilled with that daily, our lives are so much better. It tastes so much sweeter. It's so much better when we rely on him on a daily basis. What do we rely on him for? Whatever we need. That manna, what is it? Well, what do you need? That's what he's going to give you. Whatever it is, he is going to supply. When the manna fell, they picked up what they needed for that day. I'm telling you right now, God has what you need for today. If you will ask him, he will give it to you. He will give you the peace of mind and the peace of heart that you so desperately need to make it through today's troubles. And do not worry about tomorrow's. Tomorrow has trouble of its own. The trouble that you have today is enough for today. And the peace of mind that you have for today is enough for today. And it will be renewed again tomorrow. Every time you go back, that manna has fallen. Every time you come back there, he's willing to give it to you again and again and again. We must be sure that we are going to him each and every day. So where do you trust? Where does your hope come from? Where is your trust? Psalm 121 says, I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my hope come from? Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. You can hope in nothing else but him. Your help comes from nowhere else but Jesus Christ. That is where we get the peace of mind and the peace of heart that we need to make it through each and every day. He'll be our provider. He'll give us what we need. He'll be our strength, our shield, our Savior. Whatever you need him to be, he will be in your life if you will truly depend on him. As a first resort, not a last resort. We're good about depending on God as a last resort. I think He's calling us to depend on Him as a first resort, to call out to Him first every day, to come to Him and to get what we need to make it through that day. He's a good God, and He promises to be that for us, if you'll just let Him be that for you. Let's pray together. God, we love You. We thank You so much for who You are in our lives. God, I need to depend on You more. Help me to trust You. With everything that I have, help me to trust You. Help me to call on You every day. Help me to call on You every day, to rely on You for everything that I need. God, there is nothing that I need in my life that You cannot supply me. I pray that You would drop manna from heaven. Whatever it is that I need in my life, I pray that You would be that for me. Help us to make You our first resort and not our last. Help us to not worry about tomorrow and not fret about the future, but to take things one day at a time. This moment, right now, You have us here for such a time as this. We're not in tomorrow because it's not time for tomorrow. It is time for today. And so use us today in this moment, in this hour, to fulfill the calling that You have on our lives. God, we are believing You for great and mighty things. It's in Your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you guys for being with us today. I'm so glad that you joined us. Remember, He is everything that you need. You can't worry about which card is coming up next. You may never know. You may never know what these cards hold. You don't know what's coming up tomorrow. But what you do know is what you have right now. What you have right now in front of you. You know what that is, and you know that the King, that was just divine providence. I had nothing to do with that. That the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords will be there to help you through whatever you're facing and to give you whatever you need, if you'll call on Him and use Him as your first resort. I love you guys. I can't wait to see you again. Remember, the 17th, we will be doing drive-in church again here at Discover Church. And then on the week after that, we'll be opening up our building, and we'll be having a church together as a church family, and I can't wait to do that. So until then, I will see you guys. Remember, join us each night on Facebook Live for prayer time at 6:30. Can't wait to see you there. Love you guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.